reading about GATA early on. And to this day, I don't agree with every single thing about GATA, but certainly most of it is there. It's verifiable. Why argue with a fact? I mean, they quote, people and different things that have been written with the Exchange Stabilization Fund. I don't want to go too divergent here. But when they made the point, which is difficult to prove, of what you said, that the reason gold's low is because they want the dollar high. And I generally knew that. But, they build that case over and over and over again. And of course, being involved in both precious metals, the resource sector at large, and the whole system is set up, as I've said forever, on a lie. You cannot create something from nothing, yet the whole system is based on creating quote unquote currency out of thin air. And, the thing about the silver market and the wheat market and the soybean oil and cotton and cocoa and all the commodities is they're all derivatives. Every one of those price settlement mechanisms is a contract. That's what the price settlement is. It's a contract that's that price. In the rare occasion, which is about 1% of the time throughout the sector, meaning the whole commodities, do you actually deliver on that contract? 99% of the time, you deliver phony fiat fictions on that contract. There's only been a couple of instances where we've had what I consider to be a silver shortage, and they were very short in time duration. But another way to look at it, and you're right, is what's the buyer willing to pay? And it's the high bid that gets it. So if I'm going to bid $20,000 for that used, Dodge truck, and you're bidding $22,000, I don't want to go that high, you walk off with it because you're the high bid. Same thing in the markets, supposedly. So people are willing to pay 6, 7, 8, fiat, fictions over the spot price for coins, certain coins, like government minted coins, like the Silver Eagle. So there's a market. So you've really got a bifurcation in the market. And we've seen this for a long time with silver, where there's the silver derivatives price, which represents 1,000-ounce commercial bars. And then there's the retail silver, which is government coins, medallions, 10-ounce bars, kilo bars, 100-ounce bars. And those have a huge premium, but people are paying that amount. And, if everyone bought everything through retail and there was no commercial market, in other words, no 1,000-ounce bars ever was sold as 1,000-ounce bars. They were always converted to a retail product. So they always became 100-ounce bars or kilo bars or silver rounds or whatever. If that were the case, it's not. But if that were the case, then the retail market would eventually set the price of silver, because all that 1% that keeps getting drained off of the COMEX has been more than that. That's just a general number that's, a long time number. It varies. Then you would see over time that everyone that's holding retail silver is actually controlling the market. Unfortunately, well, I won't say unfortunately, I'll just state it as a fact. That's not the case. But the retail market is getting stronger and stronger and stronger, as you know, Bo. It varies again. But when the Silver Eagle program started, they could barely sell 10 million ounces of silver in a year. And now you get into the 40 or larger 40 million ounces of silver sold on just the Silver Eagle program, not counting the Maples or the Kangaroos or the Austrian Philharmonics or some of the other government coins. So if you go back to the days when I began this quest of honest money and why gold and silver are important and what the bankers really do, how money's created and all that, the early days, the honest money advocates, we'll call it, were always tuned in. And so was the market. The market was very tuned into the M1 money supply, which is basically your actual money, your wallet money, the pieces of paper, and checking account money, to keep it real basic. And you could go even further and call it just what's printed, and that's base money supply. So to have the theoretical prices, how much is gold worth? If you want to find the theoretical price of gold, you find out what the base money supply is, because gold's a currency. It doesn't expand. It can't, make more of itself. You have to mine more of it. So it's a static amount that's increased by more labor and effort mining. So the base money supply to have a gold coverage is how many pieces of paper are there and how much gold. So dollars per ounce. So you take the amount of M1 or M0 base money divided by the amount of gold. If you do that in 1980, the base money supply, dollars, divided by gold equaled $400 the ounce. And it got to 850. And there's an article, I think you can still look it up. It's called Engineering the Price of Gold by David Morgan. I think it's still out there on the web. It's one of the first articles I ever wrote. And I did that in early 2000. I forget if it was 2001, 2, or 3, somewhere in that range. If you did that math back then, gold was $2,500 an ounce. But since silver's been demonetized, then there's a little bit of thought about, well, what's the silver price? Because, well, what is it? Is it money? Well, if it's money, then it's easy to figure it's 1/16 the price of gold. So you can do that math and figure out the price of silver. So what I said in that article was you could have gone back to basically a gold coin standard, not a 40% cover ratio. You could have covered every piece of paper that said 1 on it, or 10 or 20, with gold times 2. And of course, there was a short period of time where it hit that level, but gold stayed, and I forget the exact average price for 1980. I know in 1980, the average price for silver was $20. I think gold was somewhere around $650. So you had a whole year there where the Treasury could have said, you know what, that temporary closure of the window on August 15th, 1971 was temporary. We're going back on gold. And it could have been done. But of course, no politician wants to do that because they know they're just going to keep printing into oblivion. So if you do that same arithmetic now with base money supply and the 265 million ounces that the Treasury purportedly has, you come out like in the $15,000 per ounce range. So if you do the 15-to-1 ratio, you would say $1,000 silver. Now, I'm not predicting any of those prices, but it's funny that gold gets more, in my view, big numbers than silver. And I'll make the exception here, but you often hear about $10,000 gold or $15,000 gold or even $50,000 gold. But you start talking $100 silver, and you're a kook. And of course, I wrote that silver got to 100 back in 2003. And yet, if you go to someone like, I won't say his name, but he's well respected. I really think he's very smart. I follow his work pretty closely. And he was on a show, and he wasn't really thinking, in my view. He said, yeah, well, when gold gets to 15,000 and silver is 100. Well, that math is pretty easy to do in your head. That means that the gold-silver ratio now is 150 to 1. So what he was trying to say is that, yeah, gold's going to explode and silver's really going to go high too, 100. Well, it is very low on the gold-silver ratio.